Grief is such an emotional state, and working as a grief therapist, I've come to understand that knowledge about the stages of grief is going to help you navigate your sense of loss. If you would like to continue to explore all things grief, please subscribe to this channel and turn on the notifications so that you're aware of every time we're talking about a different topic of grief. Hello, my name is Jo McRogers, and I'm a therapist who has worked for years in supporting grief. Today, we're going to talk about my very humble model of the stages of grief. And once I explain the stages of grief, I'm going to leave you with 3 important questions that are going to help you engage with your own relationship with grief. So stage 1 of your grief response. Stage 1 I call the storm. It is dark, it is stormy, it is scary, and it is unpredictable. And so generally what happens is that we seek shelter at this point. We look to form and function. We look to this place as what we would expect a grief state to look like. It can be a very busy time. It involves notifying people of the death of the person. It involves arrangements with coroners or funeral homes or churches or pastors. It invites in all kinds of work with canceling passports and health cards and credit cards. It involves sometimes sorting clothes and belongings. It involves lawyers. It involves wills. It involves objects. And while we're still in a state of shock, what happens here is that all of these to-do list gives us a checklist of doing our grief. This must be what it is like. This must be what it is all about. And somehow it gives us a sense of we're doing our grief. It somehow rewards us in terms of, oh, okay, I am getting through it. But the tricky part about grief is that it is so dimensional that this isn't anything that defines our grief stage. This is our initial response to the storm period. These activities of the storm stage have added form and function to our grief. And so it feels tangible, it feels measurable, and that's where we need to be careful, because here comes stage 2. So we've completed our stage 1 of the storm. We have done our to-do list, we have organized things, we have had a recognition of the loss publicly. Our to-do list is done, and now we move into the stage that always catches people off guard, because we've had our relationship with the death, and now we move into our relationship with the loss. And this is a strange place, because there are no checklists, there are no markers of how well are you doing this, am I getting this done, am I doing this well? And this always seems to be a struggle for people in terms of moving through this stage. I call it the stage of integration, because now we're left with a bit of silence and a bit of space where we have to accept the fact that, oh, this is real. This loss is real. This death is permanent. And often the question comes up with, how do I do this now? And then that often leads into the question, the bigger question of, who am I now with this loss? What's happening now is you're having the experience of secondary losses. There will be implications for finances. There might be implications for work, retirement plans, homes, location, structure of the family, social status, family implications about holidays. There could be things around your primary relationships, which friends you keep, which friends don't stay with you. It could be things of sharing a past together if it's a sibling or if it's a long-time spouse that you've had. It could be the loss of shared future dreams and goals. There are so many ways that loss shows up in this place of integration, and what are the secondary losses. You might lose your sense of humor, and that might have been one of your strengths. Now you don't have that to rely on for the time being. It might be a sense of trust and safety in the world. Also, that may be shaken by the loss that you've experienced. These are all secondary losses that we don't necessarily include when we think about doing our grief. And one of the final tasks of the integration is searching for meaning, searching for understanding. We are driven to understand things. We are driven for connections. So this place of integration, it's really important to know that your sense of loss is real and it needs to be met again with ideas and creativity and acknowledgement that this is still a very real place of grieving. How do you integrate this, and who are you now with this loss in your life? So before we move on to stage 3, we're just going to review. Stage 1 is about a relationship with the death through the storm of it all. Stage 2 is about integrating that loss into your life. And stage 3 that we're talking about now is called honoring in my model. Honoring is such an important place to know that you are bringing your grief work to a full circle. A death means that person has left your life, but it doesn't mean that that relationship has left your life. So I think it's really important to know that to support your grieving, you need to think of how do you honor? How do you honor who that person was to you in your life? How do you honor who that person was to you through their death? And how do you honor who you are now, having had this really important event in your life? How do you create your own story now? How do you honor who they were and who you have become because you loved them? It's such an important place. Honoring can take on all kinds of shapes and forms. It can take on the shape of people creating charities. It can create trees or benches in parks. It can mean you look for spiritual signs. It can mean you have rituals or ceremonies on the anniversary of their death. It can mean that you do quiet, silent contributions to a charity. Honoring is a really important place to know that your relationship continues though their life has ended. So we've talked about stage 1, 2, and 3, the storm, the integration, and the honoring. I just wanted to add in a quick little review, and then we'll get to those important questions. So these stages of grief are not isolated. They can vacillate between. They can occur at the same time. They are not necessarily linear either. But from the experience of supporting people in their grief, if you zoom way out, there is some linear progress to it. And it's important to know that you can kind of gauge where you're at with your grief, or are you making, I don't want to say progress with your grief, but are you working at integrating this grief into your life? Are you working at honoring what this means in your life? It's really important to be able to put some parentheses around it and see where your different thoughts, feelings, and actions fall on those 3 stages of grief that I've offered up. My hope is that by offering stages of grief, it's going to help you put grief on some sort of scaffolding to be able to understand it, on some sort of understanding or workable stages. We aren't so strong at nuances when we're grieving. We think we're either sad or we're not, or we're depressed or we're not, or we're good or we're not. I think what I would like this stage of grief to be able to offer you would be some gray area to know that, yes, you can see where you're working your grief. There's so much more to meeting your grief than those black and white reference points. I honestly believe that the more you can work with the honoring at the end, then the more that you will find a place for this loss in your life, and you will find a place to live and love fully with it, as opposed to in spite of it, or as opposed to because of it. I think that the honoring is such an important stage to be able to get to be able to action, to be able to feel, so that you know that your grief work has brought you full circle in that relationship, and that the death has not ended that relationship. So the 3 questions I'm going to leave you with today relate to my 3 stages of grief. So if you could please comment below so that we can all share and support one another in our grievolution. Tell me where you're at. Do you feel in this moment today that you are still in the storm? Are you working on the integration, or are you working on the honoring? Please put the comment below so we can know that we're not alone. The second question is, if you can identify what stage you might be in today, in this moment, how do your thoughts and actions reflect this? And the third question I want to ask you is, are you allowing yourself to move into a relationship with your grief through this model? Please leave me any kind of comments or suggestions so that I can continue to address what's on your mind in our Grievolution community. And I do thank you for joining me today. And remember always, please, doing your grief work requires self-compassion. So as always, kind thoughts, kind words, and kind heart. Thank you. Take care.